It's now my pleasure to introduce two very talented members of our film team for an overview of Premiere Pro Productions. Please welcome Matt Christensen and Marjorie Sachs.
Hi there.
Hello, thank you, Van. All right, I'm going to start screen share on my end. Someone let me know if you don't see it. My name is Matt Christensen, and I have a really quick about me. I have a background in post-production. I went to a film school here in Los Angeles and then got started working as an online editor and colorist. And about 3 years ago, I joined Adobe, and I'm here also with my colleague, Marjorie Sachs. She also comes from the Los Angeles post-production scene, where she was an editor over at Rock, Paper, Scissors, doing all kinds of commercials, trailers, and that kind of work. We're both on the part of the Premiere Pro team that's based out of Los Angeles, and that means our job is to work with the amazing people using Premiere Pro for some of the top film and TV. That includes obviously Team Fincher and many others. And it's been a blast because the unique things that our team get to work on are the features and the workflows and all that stuff that really makes the high-end post-production possible. So that's a little bit of background about us. And our team is responsible for the productions feature. So I'm going to give you a quick walkthrough of it if you haven't heard about it, and then a quick demo with Marjorie as well. Okay. So if you haven't heard about productions before, you can think of it as an evolution of our project format. Ever since the beginning, Premiere Pro has always had a single project file, and that meant all the work you did, every cut you made, every clip you imported, everything you did was in a single file. And that was great, but it had some limitations, mainly in the form of collaboration, because you can't have two people working in one file at the same time. But also when it comes to scaling to larger projects, right? The more clips you import, the more times you duplicate your sequence or try different things, the project file kept getting larger and larger, and that meant it take longer to save, longer to open, and could just be harder to work with. So to try to address that, we came up with a technology we called shared projects. And the idea with shared projects, if you've heard of it, was that it had a sort of master project that could link out to other projects. And this was great, and it helped with some of those things. But in working with people like the Fincher team and others that we work with here in LA, we heard back from them that there were still some pain points, and it wasn't quite everything they needed. So we kept working on the problem, and this is where we've landed with Productions. And so Productions replaces shared projects, and it addresses all of those issues with scaling up, with collaboration, and even some finer grained workflow details like having duplicate clips show up in your project as you move sequences around. So real quick, what a production is a folder on your disk that contains multiple Premiere projects. Sounds simple, right? And it is, and that's kind of the key to the magic. It's not some crazy complex format. It's something that you can see in your desktop, whether you're on Windows or on Mac. You can open your production folder and see everything that's there. And you can treat that folder like it's your project file. So you can move it around if you need to. You can think of it as that single unit. And I just want to mention team projects here. It's sort of a complement in the fact that they're not really stepping on each other's toes, because everything about team projects, as you've heard of it, hosts all of your project data in Creative Cloud. And everything about productions keeps all your data local to your computer or your shared storage if you're working with a team. So they're kind of two ways to get at the same problem depending on the type of workflow and the type of team that you have. If this helps, it helps me get my head around it when I'm explaining it to people. On the left here is a screenshot of what you might have built out in a single project. You can see I've got folders for my cuts. I've got folders where my scenes live. I've got folders that contain my other clips and media. And then on the right is what that might look like in a production. And so each line there that has the little hollow icon, that represents a project file, a separate Premiere project file on disk, and you can see they're still organized by folders. So you can see it's a pretty straight one-to-one relationship. So some of the benefits of productions here, kind of like I mentioned, are basically the benefits of productions are what the downsides of the single project workflow was. So as you break apart your projects, they're going to open faster and they're going to save faster. When you're working in a production, as you move sequences between those projects, you no longer get unnecessary duplicate clips like you've gotten if you've ever tried to have two projects open and move a sequence back and forth. It's also very easy to reuse projects. So I'll show you this a little later, but If you have, for example, sound or music that's pre-organized and you've organized a whole music library, you can easily reuse that project across different productions. And then finally, there's the collaboration effort element of this, which we'll get into with Marjorie in a little bit. I'm not going to get too technical, but this is as technical as I'll get. One of the exciting things about productions is this concept called cross-project references. So the idea with this is just very simple. If you imagine these two blue squares here are projects, I can have a media project, I can have a timeline project. As I edit my clips into that sequence over on the right, I don't get a copy of the clip landing in the timeline project. If you've ever worked with Premiere before productions, you know that didn't used to be the case. And that was the biggest thing we heard from teams like Fincher and people using Premiere for higher end productions was it was just too much of a mess to handle when duplicate clips would be created because you couldn't be sure which was the true one that everyone else was using. And so with productions and cross-project references, that is no more. Okay, end of slides. That was quick. Let's jump over to a demo. Okay, so I have Premiere Pro open here, and I've got a production loaded up. Should look pretty familiar to you. The new thing, if you haven't used productions before, is the brand new production panel. So I have that up here in the top left. I'm going to go ahead and make it a little bigger so we can see it and give you a quick tour of the UI here. So starting at the bottom left, there's a handy UI slider if you want to change the size of the text and the projects and everything like that. Hope you can see it better now. On the bottom right, these are the key buttons that you might work with as you're working in the production panel. So you can create new projects. I'm just going to call this my project. Just like that, I've got a new project here, and you can see it's open right down here. We have a new folder, pretty straightforward, and we have a trash button that I'll get back to in a second. When you're working in a production, similar to the project panel, we actually have some columns as well here. So I have them kind of hidden off screen, but this is some metadata from the file system about your projects. So for example, I can see how large a project is. It's a good indication of if it's an empty project or if it's one of my big ones. I can see the date created, date modified. I can sort by them, as well as this column here on the left, which is called project locking. We'll get to that in just a second. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and take this my project that I created, hit the trash button there, and you're going to see a trash folder was created. The real key to understanding productions, like I was saying before, is that what you're seeing in the production panel corresponds to the file system. So when I go to the production panel menu here, and I choose Reveal Production in Finder, this takes me out to the Finder. Bring it over. And you can see this folder right here called The Shortest Film. This is my production folder. So that's the contents of what I'm seeing in the production panel here. So you can see 00 work, 01 cuts, and that corresponds to them right here. And you can see I even have a trash folder. Just to show you how directly one-to-one this is, I can actually delete this right here from the Finder, and it's gone from the production panel. So while we don't necessarily encourage you to work from the Finder in this way, I just wanted to illustrate that it is a one-to-one relationship. If I'm here in the production folder on my disk, if I create a new folder, you'll see it appears right away in the production panel as well. And this is really the key when it comes to the collaboration. Once you're on a shared storage or something like that, everyone is seeing the same thing at the same time, and that's where the magic happens. All right. One thing I want to mention, since we're talking about being out here in the desktop, is it's really important with the production folder that you don't put any media or other files inside of it. You can think of the production folder, so again, this guy right here, as your project. So let Premiere manage what's inside there. The reason for this is if you start putting other files in here, someone else might put that file in the trash because they won't have seen the files that were in there. In the production panel, you only see Premiere project files and folders. So even if there were some media files, for example, in 00 work here, I wouldn't see them in Premiere, and then I might go move this or delete it or do something to it, not realizing that there was other files. So let Premiere manage everything that's in here, and you can keep all your media right next to the production folder or on a different hard drive, any way you like. All right, so I'm going to give you a quick demo now of how XREF works to kind of get that home because it's one of the coolest parts about production. So here I have, I'm going to go into my cuts bin here, and I've been working on a cut for scene 2. And actually, yeah, let's just go ahead and start over. So I'm going to delete my sequence here. So now I've got an empty Premiere project right here called Scene 2 Cut, and I've got Scene 2 here. It's a different project in my production. So here we've got Scene 2. So I'm kind of working out of these two projects. And as I cut them, so I'm going to say, let's start with this clip. I'm going to drag this over and start a new sequence in this project. The key thing here to realize is only a sequence was created in this project. There is no copy of the clip that lives in Scene 2 Cut, right? So just to make it easier, I'll jump to list view and I'll just grab a couple more. Let's do a really great edit of this sort of like fitting Friday the 13th watch sequence here. All right, let's pretend this is a great edit. Again, notice here in Scene 2, I've got no other clips. It's just my sequence here in this project. So I'll call this watch sequence. And now I'm going to close the Scene 2 project. So just like that, I'm still working with these clips that came from the Scene 2 project. I can still play them back. I can even match frame, right? So if I hit F now, that loads the clip into the source monitor, even though the clip doesn't exist anywhere in this project. So when I was talking on that slide about cross-project references, this is really the magic of that. I don't have to have every clip I've ever looked at or imported open just to be able to work with it in the timeline. Instead, all I can have open is this timeline I'm working on, and that helps with saving time, open time. Also, just it uses less memory on your computer and keeps everything responsive. If I need to get back to this clip, if say I remember that there was a different take right next to it or something like that, no problem. I can right click on the clip and choose Reveal in Project, and Premiere remembers where that was. It opens up Scene 2 for me and selects the clip. So that's why we call it cross-project referencing. As you start to work in your production, links are made across the project and Premiere tracks where the clips came from. Okay, I want to talk about I remember when I said in the slides, one of the great things about productions is the ability to reuse projects. So I can say I have an audio folder here. I have some of my own music and sound effects. But I know my assistant grabbed me a project and put together some music loops that I should use. So I'm going to choose the panel menu up here and choose Add Project to Production. And what this is going to do is go here. It lets me choose a production from somewhere outside of my production and bring it into the production, sort of like an import. So it's telling me it's going to leave the original alone, which is great. I'm going to make a copy of it, add it to my production, and it happened so quick you didn't see it, but there's a little progress bar here in case it's a large project. And just like that, I have this now Loops 2020 project here, and it's full of music. And you can see it's even organized like this. So this can be used across different productions. So when I start a new production, I don't have to re-import the music files and reorganize them. I just go grab my Loops 2020 project from a previous production and I'm good to go. I want to talk a little bit real quick about building out a production. We're going to talk about collaboration next, but I really want to point out that everything I'm doing now is just me as a solo editor. And one of the key benefits of productions is breaking apart your large projects. Like we said, we've heard from so many editors, if you're working on a documentary project, even by yourself, it can start to get really gnarly once you have years of media imported and you've been cutting for 3 years and you have so many timelines. And that single project is basically, it might take minutes to open and minutes to save. And so even if you're a solo editor, working in a production can be a huge benefit. And even if you're not working on a huge, massive feature documentary, it can still be really useful to keep organized. For example, we have a lot of YouTubers that love productions because they can basically keep every channel for their video in the production, and each new video is just a new project. And then as they reuse elements, maybe they have graphics or audio they always refer to, or they want to pull shots from a previous video, it's all there in the production. And they don't have to jump around between different projects that they don't remember. So it's a really great way. You can organize your whole YouTube channel, a whole film, an episodic thing, and it's really flexible. So we're not telling you how you have to organize your production. What we have set up here is just an example common to film and TV workflows. But the great thing about Productions is it's not going to tell you how to work. All right, so I've said enough about that. I think it's time to show off the collaboration features. And so my colleague Marjorie is on the call, and I want to talk about what it looks like when you collaborate. So you can have your production stored anywhere, just like a regular project. But if you want to collaborate with something or with someone, there's really two ways to go about it. One is a decentralized workflow, which we're not going to show today because it's kind of hard to demo. But the idea would be I have a copy of the production, Marjorie has a copy of the production, and then we send projects back and forth. So I might finish an edit and then I might email her the project file and she can add it to her production and see the stuff. That could be useful if you have no way to connect. But as we've all started to work from home and all started to have to work remotely, there are some better ways out there. So we're going to use one of those. And so the second method is if you have a shared server. Traditionally in Hollywood post-production, that's going to be a big, huge, beefy server with fast connections at your edit house. And that works great too. But in modern times, there's many different cloud services that you can use to host your production and basically act like a virtual server that's over the internet. The one that we're going to use today is called LucidLink. And you can see that's the little icon I have up here it's showing on the other screen, so you'll have to believe me on that. But what LucidLink is essentially a chunk of Amazon Web Service storage, but it presents it to your Mac or your Windows computer like it's a connected server. So Premiere has no idea that this whole production that I'm in right now is actually living in the cloud. As far as Premiere is concerned, like we saw in the Finder, it thinks that this whole folder is local when actually it lives in Amazon Web Services. How can you tell it's not local to my computer? I don't know if you can make it out, but macOS is telling me that I have 1.13 petabytes available. I don't have 1.13 petabytes on my laptop, so that's all up in Amazon Web Services. So that's what we're going to use today to collaborate. So Marjorie, do you want to go ahead and hop into the production here? Maybe scene one?
Sure. All right, I am going to twirl open scene 2 on my end, or scene folder, and open scene 1.
So keep an eye on my production panel here. And there she is. So in the project lock column, we can see Marjorie is now working in this project. And so we're both in the production in real time. So Marjorie, do you want to walk through the different lock icons here?
Yeah, so projects can really be in 3 different states. You can be in open, read, write projects, and you will see that they have a solid icon with a green pen. And that means that only you are able to edit and make changes to that project. Another editor can have that project open, but they can only view it and they can't make physical changes to it. Open read-only projects have a solid icon, and they also may have a red lock next to them. This means that you have the project open, but you can only view it and modify it, and you cannot modify it or make physical changes to that project. And if you see the red lock next to it, that means another editor does have that project open in read-write mode, and their name will appear next to the project under that project lock metadata column. The cool thing about this is while you can't make any physical changes to your read-only project, you still are able to load clips and sequences into the source monitor. You can set in and out points and perform edits from the source monitor into a sequence that's in your read and write project. You can play sequences in the timeline in the program monitor. You're able to export media, XMLs, EDLs, AAFs, and you can also copy project items into a project that is in read and write mode. And then the third state is closed projects. So these are an outlined icon, and you can see Matt's pointing to those. And they also may have a red lock, but this means that the project is closed on your system. It's not using any memory or processing power. And if the red lock is present, you'll see the name of the editor who has that project open.
Excellent. So to kind of show how this can work in both real-time collaboration, you can see I don't have scene 1 open currently because it's got a hollow icon, but I'm going to go ahead and open it. So it opens for me in a read-only state. So you can see here it says scene 1 parentheses Marjorie to let me know that Marjorie's in it, and there's a little lock icon. And so all of my buttons down here for importing or making bins are grayed out. I can't change the name on any of these clips, but I can watch them, right? I can open them, I can scrub through them. I can cut them into my timeline in a different project. So it's locked to me, but I can still pull from it. So Marjorie, while I'm going to work on something else here, do you think you could make a string out for me here in scene 1?
Sure.
Great. So while she's doing that, I just want to show you real quick, if you've used Premiere Pro before, you know there's project settings when you go to File, Project Settings. In a production, though, you want to have the same settings for the entire production. You don't want to have to manage for each project where the scratch disks go. So just want to point out, in productions, you're going to see project settings grayed out. You're going to have production settings available, and you'll see the same sort of general and scratch disk ones you're used to. We would just recommend you keep your scratch disk set next to the production, not inside of it, as it is by default, and you'll be good to go with that. And if you are like me and you're curious and you like to know how things work, and you're looking around in the production folder and you see this file called a prod set, that actually is what contains the production settings. So you don't want to delete that, don't rename it, don't move it, just let it kind of live there. And that's how Premiere Pro shares the production settings to anyone else who opens the production. Okay, Marjorie, are you done?
Yes, I am. Go ahead
Awesome.
and save.
I can tell Marjorie was done because of 2 things. She has the project read write, which is why it's a red lock for me, but the text here became italicized. And also in the project panel here, I get a little alert icon letting me know that there's changes to this project. So that means Marjorie changed something on her end and she hit save, and Premiere's letting me know that there's an update. We didn't want to auto update it because if you're in the middle of working on something, you don't want everyone who's saving to just suddenly make stuff change on your computer. But it's not an error, it's not a warning, it's just letting you know. There's nothing wrong if I just ignore it and keep working. I'm going to click the panel menu here and choose Refresh Project. All right, and now we can see in the project, there's a new Scene 1 string out, and it even opened for me automatically. So this is the string out Marjorie just made, and I want to point something else out. Because the project is still locked to her, the timeline is as well. So here in my Scene 1 string out, there's a lock icon. And again, like Marjorie said, I can play back the sequence, I can set an in point and an out point, and I can export it, but I can't change it. As soon as I try and drag a clip, Premiere's like, nice try, Marjorie's working in here, right? So that's the real power there of the locking and the read-write states is, even if someone's working on something, you can still see what they're up to, but you aren't going to accidentally overwrite what they're doing. Okay, let's see. Marjorie, I remember there was a couple spots on here where the director wanted to flag something. Could you add some clip markers on those and make those clips black and white at the master clip level?
Cool.
Cool.
Yeah.
While Marjorie's working on that, I'm going to show you what it would look like if I wanted to start from the string out, right? So this is Scene 1. Here I have a Scene 1 cut project. I can just take this string out and drop it over here into my project. And drop it over here into my project. There we go. So now this is my unlocked copy. I can do whatever I want. I can start cutting, right? So let's see here. We'll just do some trims. Might be a really great edit. This is actually how I prefer to edit. Just go with your gut. Okay, so while I've been working and I've started to build out my edit, I can see Marjorie has finished there. And so I'm going to refresh one more time. Refresh project. Cool. And this is where the magic comes in. Because what she's done is add clip markers. You can see these red clip markers here on the clips. She added them to the master clips, to the original clips in the bin, as well as put on a master clip effect, which makes it turn black and white. The power behind that is now that that's happened to those master clips, Premiere will ripple those effects down to anywhere else where those are used. So you can see here in my Scene 1 string out, right? Even if I close the Scene 1 project that Marjorie was working on, this is my string out of those clips. The markers are there, and if I move this guy over, you can see the black and white clip is applied, or the black and white effect. So that's the power of the cross-project references at work. Premiere saw that the source clip was changed in the bin, and so it updated it in my timeline as well, even though Marjorie didn't even know about my timeline or see it. All right, so there's a lot more we could show you about productions. I could talk about it forever, but I hope that gives you a quick overview of the features of productions, collaborating with a team, or just working solo.